In this slideshow, we'll talk about globalization and society. Foreign direct investment, or FDI, is a major source of capital and expertise, but it is also the center of controversy over the benefits and costs to home and host countries. The trend in recent years has been for developing countries to replace obstacles to FDI with incentives for FDI. The potential benefits of foreign direct investment are higher productivity, greater efficiency, capital formation, employment, training, managerial skills, R&D, industrial upgrading, new capital equipment, export expansion, lower cost imports, access to clean technologies. The potential costs of foreign direct investment are economic disruptions, wage exploitation and income inequality, negative effects on local companies, loss of domestic competition, environmental damage. Multinational enterprises must balance and satisfy the interests of different constituencies that have different objectives: shareholders, employees, customers, and society. Companies are under pressure from their shareholders to produce high profits, but they are also under pressure from their other constituencies. Foundations of ethical behavior. Different countries have different cultures and different values. Relative behavior implies that we act according to the ethical standards of the countries where we operate. Normative behavior implies that there are universal ethical standards that should be followed everywhere. Often the situation is not so simple. For example, DDT. DDT is dangerous to the environment, but it helps to prevent malaria. So it's not easy to determine if the use of DDT is ethical. Legal foundations of ethical behavior. Law embodies many of a country's moral beliefs and is a reasonably good guide for proper conduct. Law provides a clearly defined set of rules. The rules of law are enforceable. Law represents a consensus derived from significant experience. But there are limits to law as a basis for ethical behavior. Not all unethical behavior is illegal. Laws cannot anticipate all future ethical dilemmas. Usually they are a reaction to issues that have already surfaced. Countries with civil law rely on specificity in the law, and there may not be enough laws passed that deal with ethical issues. Laws are often based on moral concepts that are not precisely defined. Bribery of public officials is used to obtain permits, contracts, or special privileges. Countries differ in the likelihood of bribery being a common practice. In 1977, the U.S. passed the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which outlaws the payment of bribes by U.S. firms to foreign officials, political parties, or candidates. In 1988, the act was extended to include bribery by foreign firms operating in the U.S. Environmental issues. Extractive and manufacturing industries generate air and water pollution or produce products such as automobiles that use fossil fuels. The Kyoto Protocol 1997 on global warming required the reduction of the emission of greenhouse gases by 5.2% from their 1990 levels by 2012. It has not been adopted by all countries and is therefore still limited in its total global impact. But companies must adapt to countries that have adopted the Kyoto Protocol. Drug issues. Pharmaceutical companies face challenges on how to make enough money to fund the R&D for new drugs and how to help provide critical drugs to developing countries at lower prices. Major issues are AIDS, malaria, and other tropical diseases. Labor issues. A major challenge facing multinational enterprises is the globalization of the supply chain and labor, especially in the areas of fair wages, child labor, working conditions, working hours, and freedom of association. There are pressures on companies to meet ethical standards. Legal sanctions, consumer boycotts, lower employee morale, bad publicity, which hurts sales. Companies respond to the pressures for greater corporate social responsibility by establishing codes of conduct, distributing them to suppliers and subcontractors internationally, and ensuring compliance with the codes through training and auditing programs. This process has led to an ethical code for labor. Employment is freely chosen. Freedom of association is respected. Working conditions are safe and hygienic. Child labor will not be used. Living wages will be paid. Working hours are not excessive. No discrimination is practiced, and regular employment is provided. Now take the quiz on this slideshow by clicking on the Quiz on Slideshow icon, which is right below the icon you clicked on to view this slideshow.